Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain.
Well, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Lagos. I'm Kyari.
Good morning and welcome. Oh, you said it's a beautiful Tuesday morning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not ugly,
the
is it?
day.
February the 15th.
The day after.
The day after Monday.
Am I marking a good morning and welcome?
Wednesday will be the day after Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Thursday will be the day after Wednesday.
Yes, the
Friday
day
will be the day after Thursday.
The day after
There's always a day after every
The day
day.
after Valentine's Day, just to be clear. Guys,
okay.
don't run away from that. Come on.
All right. Yeah. Well, Mr. Sylvester Bodage joins us this morning. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Always a pleasure.
See, they're making a fuss about this Valentine stuff.
Okay, I'm making a fuss. Okay.
Someone has to take
Don't
the
worry,
blame, right?
Markway is going to join
You
you
have to
guys.
blame it on the rain. And this is for me, the rain.
That is proof of...
Proof of concept.
Yesterday.
Oh, really? I did.
Proof of concept.
Okay.
No, proof of activity.
Well, you are going to have to prove...
The burden of proof is on him.
Yes.
Interesting.
With evidence to show.
Mr. Bodage is the publisher of a news National Daily. Thank you for coming on the game. So, well, of course, I know you know what to expect in some of the dailies, as a matter of fact. So, are we spoiled for choice this time? How do we pick? Which ones do we
Well,
pick
obviously spoiled for choice, Chamberlain. But of course, the big news, of course, will be what is popular. So let's begin with the leadership newspaper this morning.
All right, so take a look at leadership then.
Yeah.
And see what they reflect today on the front page of leadership newspaper today. Okay, so that is the big lead, and one wonders, what went through, what you thought, seeing NDLEA indicts Abba Kyari, four other cops of drug trafficking. Suspects arrested. Disgraced super cop is a member of transnational drug cartel. We have evidence to jail him. That's from the NDLEA. Are you surprised at this?
Yes, I was extremely surprised. Surprised that those who have responsibility to enforce the law, catch the thieves, and that they are now being involved. It's not the issue, but the person involved, of course, is being in the eye of the storm with regards the the ongoing hush puppy investigation, where many have been defending on one side and some are on the other side. People were waiting to see the outcome of investigation. Nothing is really coming out clear until a few days ago, where the Attorney General did say that a prima facie case had been established, and that the country was working on a possible extradition. Then alone did people begin to look more closely, and then boom, yesterday something unthinkable.
Was the AGF statement for you the green light for people to proceed?
Oh, sure.
That FG was now saying, okay, go ahead.
Because until the statement from the AGF, we were at a loss as to what was really happening. Today he's cleared, tomorrow he's not cleared, the day after, and then he shows up at a wedding and the pictures are everywhere, and it's like that brought his issue to the front burner again. Watching that press conference yesterday, I was broken. Because this is a guy that lots of accolades over time.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be some other reportage.
But again, we Nigerians are waiting to see the outcome. Many of us are disappointed. Many of us, on the other hand, we are a bit, watching to see, and I must commend the Inspector General of Police, who did not hesitate to hand them over. Because one would have thought, okay, esprit de corps, try to protect him, okay, the police is investigating what you have investigated. But the Inspector General of Police went frontal about it and delivered them to the NDLEA, and in a matter of hours, the NDLEA, having declared him wanted, and orders, came out again to say we have him in custody. and courtesy the efforts of the Inspector General of Police. And the Inspector General of Police, in doing that, also called on the NDLEA that the officers or your officers who were also involved in this need to be brought out as well.
If you look above that lead story right there on the front page of Leadership newspaper, you see poor preparation, no sale of forms threaten APC convention.
You know, many have projected that this party is going to likely experience an implosion, and this is what we're seeing, all the indicators around them.
But you know, this is politics. Sometimes you project and project and project. At the end of the day,
but
they say the family affair, we'll sort ourselves out. And everybody goes back home and everybody's
because there is a history to this. We also saw it happen with the PDP in the build-up to the 2015 elections. When they couldn't put their acts together, there was an implosion. And then that ultimately began the process that led to the party being edged out of power.
That's Leadership this morning.
Let's take a look at Vanguard next. As you'd expect, the paper leads with similar story. Drug busts, how NDLEA nailed arrested DCP Kyari, 4 others. I think that's one of the biggest stories in the country right now, and you understand why. But take a look at the writers. Suspended police chief implicated in 25-kilogram cocaine deal, alleged to have bribed NDLEA men with $61,000 to retrieve seized drugs and replace them with dummy exhibits. NDLEA declared Kyari wanted after he allegedly shunned invitation. Police arrested Kyari. Others took them into custody last Friday, handed them over to NDLEA. So apparently a lot of details are coming out about this one. But let's talk about this story on top of the nameplate, because this has equally affected a lot of Nigerians, and it's about bad fuel. I don't know if you experienced that, but you see the story, flood market with petrol marketers, others beg FG. And you know, a lot of things stick out. First is the investigation that is ongoing. The National Assembly, the executive, even the internal marketers and all that, they have their own investigation ongoing. So who's responsible for this? The question sticks out. What will be done to those who have been affected? That one also sticks out. And the fact that people still have to queue for petrol days after that. Does that bog your mind?
Oh, sure it does, because this is a clear case of economic sabotage. And in a case like this that you know, we're experiencing, after how many days, we are not aware of heads already rolling, whether at the government agency side or the marketers. Those who brought this fuel in, those who approved it, who certified it, by now we should see things happening. Nigerians are concerned, we are worried that is one statement after the other, one investigation leading to another, but we are not hearing, I mean, we've not heard of anything concrete. And this, there are processes. I mean, importation of petroleum products, we know how it goes. As we speak, we are not aware that any such persons have been arrested, taken into custody to explain what happened. The documentations are there, the timelines are there, and it's just looking like there are sacred cows or there are individuals that must be protected. We should just wait this thing out. Maybe Nigerians are going to forget about it. Once there is petrol, we'll forget what we went through. But don't forget, people's vehicles have been destroyed. Their work life have been affected. People can't get to work. They have to queue hours. On my way here this morning, I'm seeing long queues in various fuel stations. People have been out as early as 4, 5 a.m. because they want to get fuel. Now people are even apprehensive. They don't even know which fuel station to go to. They don't know, how do we tell that a fuel is good or bad? You have to take it in first, and then the car starts malfunctioning, and then the mechanic comes in and says, oh, you have a bad fuel. We have to empty your fuel tank. You have to change the fuel filter. And then people are spending, and this is unacceptable. And Nigeria, the federal government needs to do more than statements. We need to hear that people are being arrested and heads are rolling. By now, people should not be in the offices where they were, because how come it passed?
You know, I'll be honest with you.
Somebody should be held accountable. And this is one of the problems we face, when people are not being held accountable for their actions. Those who are coming behind them continue on the same path. We need to build a new nation. And for that to happen, people must be held accountable.
I'll be honest
and we
with
look
you,
forward to see it in this case.
The last time I bought petrol, I was literally praying, I mean, as they were selling it in. But does this remind you of the DCP Kyari case? The fact that, I mean, their statements, you keep wondering, what will the government do? Will anything happen? And it took a while before we saw this decisive action. So clearly we have similarities here.
Yeah, because people are in government to protect others' interests. So those interests, and again, these are issues that border around vested interests. If there are no vested interests, issues like this, I mean, it's audible to the deaf and visible to the blind. It should be dealt with the way it is. You've acted wrongly. You should face the music. This is the only way things can. If you know that the guy who messed up the other day paid dearly for it, you will make sure nothing goes wrong in your own sector, in your own office. And I think that is the case. For instance, what is happening with Abba Kyari now, every police officer, and I just thought for a while, this may be one out of several. So this investigation, is it going to expand? How many more formations should be properly looked into? It is for the General Police going to set up a special task force to go into the police operations themselves, because these are the issues with exhibits. Right, what happens to them?
Absolutely.
Not just the police, the EFCC, the various agencies. Monies are recovered, and these monies are relooted from the custody of the agencies.
Just to quickly mention this story, pardon me, Mr. Budagi. There's this other one about ASUU. I know that this DCP Kyari is a big one, and we'll definitely be breaking it down further. But there's the ASUU strike as well, while we're going on strike. On 1 month warning strike from ASUU. It's a page 7 read, but I imagine that will be another daily, so let me just leave it there for the Vanguard newspaper.
Well, talking about heads rolling, you said that a little while ago. The Daily Trust newspaper leads with that one this morning. Heads to roll as NDLEA remands Kyari others. So you've already started conversation around that. Okay,
yeah,
so
we expect
I wonder which heads now.
I wonder which heads now. Kyari 4 others, well, Kyari others, according to the Daily Trust newspaper, but we know that there are 4 others according to the news. But look at the riders. Why top brass worked to suppress case. Find out what that means. Anti-drug law officers also involved, according to police. Embattled DCP can be tried immediately. That's ascribed to lawyers. And then the graphics you see on the front page are a breakdown of video evidence of DCP Kyari's alleged involvement in drug trafficking inside the vehicle, and some photos. You'll find the details right there. Well, Kaude, you're right. Daily Trust newspaper also says students blast ASUU FG over strike, threaten protests. What do you make of this?
It's about time they also took their own destiny in their hands, because it appears between ASUU and government there is no value for the future of our nation, because I consider education a major infrastructure. We talk about road infrastructure, electrification, and the rest. But I tell you, no matter how beautiful the roads are, no matter how well constructed the trains and the railway system, if the minds of the citizenry, they are not properly educated, those other infrastructure will be undermined. I mean, they will decay, they will dilapidate. Now, education is key. We see government spend so much money on things that many consider, use the word irrelevant, fanfare. And then a matter as serious as the education of the next generation, the generation that are still waiting for their turn anyway, and then we handle them with kid gloves. How much is it? What is needed? Why can't we sit with this group and iron these things out, make special funds available, and make sure that these issues are ironed out, and so these kids don't have to stay at home again, because the moment they go back home, they lose track, there's a drawback, and then they become accessories. to various vices and crimes in society.
Certainly something to break down.
By the time they come back, they are not the same students who went home.
Most certainly.
Well, Tribune has something similar to that one, but they also have their own version of that Abba Kyari story on the front page of the Tribune. As you can see there, drug business. Kyari, 4 policemen arrested, NDLEA officials indicted. How he negotiated release of 25 kg cocaine, offered $61,400 cash. That's ascribed to the agency, so they're looking into all of that.
I hope they will have an opportunity too to tell their own story. Yeah, we have seen images, we've seen
if they're going to be tried, there'll be a process.
They'll be able to tell their story.
Naturally, as expected with the system, judicial system. So perhaps when they get to that stage, hopefully the nation will keep tabs on that and see how that plays out. Well, you've seen some of this previously. Above this lead story, APC convention, zoning, consensus, stall sale of forms as aspirants fume. Right beside that, PDP governors to raise panel to examine Nigeria's security. Yeah, they have something on ASUU, which I think one of the other dailies will look at, but that's Tribune this morning.
Have you seen the front page of The Guardian? Well, if you haven't, let's show it to you. It's on Super Cup, Super Scandal. That's how The Guardian tags it. NDLEA releases shocking details of Kyari's drug deals. So they say deals, this is one deal. Yes. It's more than one. Rights group hails NDLEA. It's a tragic end to a glorious era, says Segei, as well as other writers. Arguably one of the biggest stories in the country right now. And that story about the bad fuel. Regulator mum over fuel scarcity as NNPC relocates team to Lagos. So it's a page to read. Okay, I'm not going to get about on that conversation about.
So does that suggest that the NNPC didn't have a team in Lagos, the commercial name of the country?
Absolutely.
That consumes more than almost half of the total volume of petroleum. Petrol that's consumed in the country.
Some even say the headquarters should be here. I guess.
Maybe the way the daily represented it, because definitely they will have some presence.
Representation.
Yeah, in Lagos. So perhaps maybe that's feedback in terms of how people internalize captions.
Which team?
The devil is in the detail, bro.
It was an elite team, but you know what? Let me just show you this one. It's on the education sector, but it takes a different slant about ASUU. But take a look at it. ASUU ruffles jam Pantami as it fires 4-week warning shot. And it was said that ASUU, part of the the statement referred to the minister is title now, the professor title. And there's been a lot of controversy around that, and it seems like it's now a factional thing. Some believe it should be a professor, others, it looks like majorities say, well, it shouldn't be addressed as a professor. Is there factions in this thing? Isn't it straight and clear?
The facts are out there. Again, people like to just call a spade an agricultural implement, not wanting to call it what it is. A spade is a spade.
But it also serves the function of agriculture.
The academic, the academia, they have spoken. And I think if they have spoken, they have spoken. The facts are there. We all knew the processes that culminated in that professorial award. And he doesn't merit it. He doesn't merit it. He can wait for his he can wait for his turn. And I don't think there's any big deal about being addressed as professor. You can be a mister and be excellent and fruitful and productive. So I think that Mr. Patami should do the needful, drop it and work for it, and over time merit
Is it up to him?
Of course, it is you. It's affecting you. It's affecting your person.
What about the people who gave him?
You can opt out of what is given to you if you know that the circumstances surrounding it. And there are many people who have turned down such offers.
The question I think Jimlin is asking here is, some people may have, from what you're saying now, if it's anything to go by,
the ivory tower,
may have just corrupted the process of awarding it. So
beautiful. And now you found out the process that led to something being given to you was corrupted. What are you going to do?
Okay, so should we borrow, what did that paper say? Heads to roll?
How many heads are going to roll in how many sections?
Again, in insane crimes, permit me to use the word, not that our crime is not sane, but in more developed crimes, this shouldn't be a conversation. It shouldn't be a conversation.
But there are no conversations.
It shouldn't be an issue that we should drag on. No.
So let's not drag on it. Let's move to Daily Independent this morning on the front page. Even though it's related, FG draws flags for allegedly pushing ASUU into strike. That's the lead of the Daily Independent newspaper this morning. Nance plans showdown, accuses parties of impunity. We spoke about this a little earlier.
What could Nance, the protest, what could it have?
Don't forget that they are about 60% of Nigeria's population. I mean,
so what that protest,
and that is why government needs to act fast, because the protest is like setting up a fire during the Harmattan.
Accusing both parties of complicity.
Yes, because
that's what they said.
I just said earlier that between ASUU and the federal government, they are not considerate. They're not being. Of course, ASUU is going to blame it on the federal government. I said, federal government, you are government. Aren't you tired of seeing these kids suffer? We knew there are people who wrote JAM in 2020. They still haven't gotten into school. Some university academic sessions have been distorted. Students are home. They are saying we can only take a certain percentage of those who did well in an exam, who ordinarily should have been admitted. But because we suffered by reason of the ASUU strike, we are not able to meet up with the academic demands. And then we are about to experience it again. Meanwhile, government told us that was the last one we saw. So if Nance is holding government accountable and ASUU responsible, I think Nance is doing the right thing. Nance is not bothered about who is right or who is wrong. Nance is saying, get your acts together and make sure this doesn't happen. Okay. We are tired.
Well, the lead story of most of the papers, alleged drug trafficking. Police hand over wanted Abba Kyari, 4 other cops to NDLEA. But right beneath that, on the front page of Daily Independent, is this one. Telcos lost 12.3 million internet subscribers in 2021. That must be some shock, especially at a time when everyone is going virtual.
I can tell you that, yes, I don't know what indices they used, but I can tell you
lack
that
of registration, double registration from clients.
The NIN issue is there. Some of us who had three SIMs had internet connectivity, data services on all 3. Many have now made some adjustments, maybe reduced from 3, just to 1, and then hotspot to others. Several factors may have been responsible, because we have seen an increase in our internet activities, our data, our participation in data activities, and we've seen that Nigeria is rising in its ranking in terms of internet penetration. So somehow there's a disconnect between what we see with internet penetration and connectivity with the loss of subscribers, as it were. Okay. Yes, maybe loss of connected lines because certain adjustment had to be made, but I think largely we are not doing badly with internet connectivity. I just need to know.
Just one more before we go in 60 seconds or less. Daily Times. Why governors contested the Executive Order 10 ascribed to Governor Fayemi. So there you go about the hoopla concerning Executive Order 10. Could you have been laid to rest with this?
I was so excited to see the governors stand up and challenge some of these, what they refer to as impunity, hiding under the guise of executive orders. And we wait to see more of this, because it's a federal system, and we expect the constituent parts of this system to stand up and deal with the issues as they are, as it affects them. We're seeing it with revenue collection, and then we are seeing it also with executive orders being challenged. That is what makes a society sane, and that is where we need to go.
I think we can take one more paper.
Oh yeah, we have room for more, right? Okay, Nigerian News Direct, $61,400 cocaine bribe. IGP charges NDLEA to investigate officers, and you see that one. But this all interests you. E-Naira better than Bitcoin, Ethereum, others. IMF tells Nigerians. I mean, how about that? But
Nigerians, of course, they are still looking at the issue of E-Naira with some
skepticism,
hesitation, and so on. And that is why the onus is on the CBN to ensure that the education, that the sensitization is accelerated.
Is it catching on as you expect? As expected?
Not as we expect, because now people are signing on, but those who should provide the wares are not joining. So I come on, so who do I buy from? So CBN right now, from what I learned, the next level for them is to get the merchants to come on the platform. Because if we all sign up to E-Naira, who are we going to buy from?
But what's the essence of having the DMBs on with the E-Naira platform on their apps?
I think it's all to deepen the cashless society agenda, which we are seeing growing rapidly in different parts of the world. Ultimately, like the paper you hold today as your currency, as your Naira, is not going to be in a few years' time. That's already happening. Some of you can tell that in the last few days or weeks, if not months, you haven't really handled a Naira or a currency. Maybe you handled some dollars.
Somebody's giving us an inkling of what's been happening somewhere behind the scenes. Oh, we see. Well, it's a good one. I mean, you always like people to progress. Well, that is it. We'll look at some of the dailies here this morning. Thank you for coming on. Sylvester Bodage is a publisher of national daily newspapers. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us.
The patience of our members has been taxed beyond tolerable limit. NEC therefore resolved to embark on a 4-week rollover total and comprehensive strike beginning from Monday, 14th February 2020, which is today.
This sort of announcement is one that students of higher education institutions, their parents or guardians never wish to hear. Another round of strike which may snowball into an indefinite industrial action that will cripple learning activities in Nigerian public universities if the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, and the federal government do not come to actionable agreements.
The government has failed to fully implement the memorandum of action signed with the Academic Staff Union of University on 23rd December 2013. Payment of ASUU salary and emolument with integrated payroll and personnel management information system IPPIS, and non-adoption of the University Transparency Academic Solution have continued to shortchange our members.
While ASUU and the federal government slug it out, with the union state chapters gearing up for full compliance to the 4-week total and comprehensive strike, students in public universities in the southwest to the southeast, south-south to the northern region who are holding the short end of the stick in this face-off bear their minds.
Our parents are there counting years you are going to school while you spend up to 19 years in school.
I finished secondary school in 2007. I spent 9 years at home before I finally gained admission. Time is going.
We're supposed to be graduating in 2 weeks' time. Our exam's supposed to start today. I have exam by 3 p.m. That's why I'm in school currently. But the ASUU members on meeting currently saying that all exams that have not been written from 8 till 12 will not be written again.
Honestly, I'm indifferent because they need to listen to these people. They need to listen to them. They are human beings. They need money.
Each side are claiming to be on the right path. And what I want the federal government now to consider is that You know, when two elephants are fighting, actually, it's the grass that suffer.
Protracted industrial actions are not alien to Nigerian tertiary institutions, but this is one strike that many believe should come to an end soon, with quick and lasting resolution of the issues. Yomi Otaibi, Channels Television News.
And that was the story that greeted the headlines yesterday, that ASUU was in a meeting, and the outcome of that meeting was that ASUU had declared a 1-month warning strike. Some people say it was a black rose given the students on Valentine's Day, but I mean, this is where we currently are. Some people have taken great pains to enumerate how many times ASUU has gone on strike, for what reasons they've gone on strike. We have with us this morning Dr. Christopher Piwuna, who is the Vice President, Academic Staff Union of Universities, to shed a little more light on why the union has embarked on this action. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Well, it would seem like it's another bitter pill. I imagine that this is also not an easy decision for ASUU to reach. But can you tell us, how come negotiations broke down this time around?
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, let me express our sadness at the turn of events, particularly for students and parents. On Friday, when we drove into University of Lagos to hold this meeting, there was a matriculation exercise going on. Young people, very impressionable, 16, 17-year-olds with their parents. We met them at the gate right into the university as we went to start this meeting. And we were saying in the bus as we drove into Unilag that we hope we won't have to proceed on a strike for the sake of these young ones whom, the parents were excited, the kids were all over the place, with their gowns. And so for us, it's a very painful thing that ASUU has to embark on another strike again. Among our members, we have people who are undergoing studies, who have lost promotion because they couldn't complete their studies. Our wives, too. Some of them are doing their master's degree programs, some PhD. So nobody is spared of the pain when we go on strike. Having said that, why have we gone on strike again? Where did the negotiation break down? Well, I think the government is in a better position to say why it broke down. But when we met on the 22nd of December 2020 with government, that meeting was possible because of the credibility of the Chief of Staff to the President. We didn't want to have any conversations with them again, but because he intervened, and we felt this was an individual that knew us. He was at the time the Pro-Chancellor of the Bayero University, Kano, so he knew the problems of the university, having also worked in the university for some time. So we went for that meeting. After that meeting, on the 23rd, we met as a union and decided to suspend the strike. Ordinarily, because of Professor Gambari, we would have just suspended the strike. But we've interacted with these characters for so long that we felt, despite his presence in the scene, we needed to say we're suspending this action conditionally.
When you say these characters, who are you referring to?
We're referring to the people in the Ministry of Labor, Education, NUC, Accountant General's Office, Ministry of Finance. They are the characters we're referring to. They are the characters we're referring to. We said we will suspend this action conditionally. And we did. At the time we met with them, they said they were going to inaugurate the visitation panels immediately after New Year, January 2021. They didn't get to inaugurate those committees until April 2021. Typical of Nigerians, when you call them to work, they prove themselves. Between April and June, the visitation panels had completed their reports, submitted the reports by the 31st of August. As we're talking, sitting in this hall now, we have not seen the outcome of that visitation panel report. We're talking about how the negotiations break down again. Okay? We met with government in December 2020. We said to them, look, we have agreed with you in 2013 through the needs assessment that you will provide, money for the revitalization of the Nigerian university system. You've done something. Goodluck Jonathan's government gave about 220 billion. There was another tranche to be given. We understand. We met with government on the 25th of March 2021, and we said there is a balance at that time of 170 billion naira for revitalization, not for ASUU members, for revitalization of our public universities. How are you going to give this money to the universities? They said, well, ASUU, you go back and decide, give us a schedule. On the 26th of March, just the next day, we brought a schedule that will spread the 170 billion naira balance to the universities due to the prevailing economic circumstances. That was the reason we gave. Okay, spread it over a year and a half or so. Not a dime has reached any Nigerian university for that 170 billion. The money that they gave at the end of that strike, they had given for revitalization, but there was a balance.
How much was that? Because I do recall that I think there was some money given by the Buhari administration towards this revitalization. It was something that when the money was approved, I don't know whether they eventually got to pay that money. I think ASUU was also, on edge as well, saying that they also needed their own money as well. I think it was something, I don't know, but I know that there was some money. I'm very want to call any amount of money right now.
I'll give you the amount.
Yes.
It was 35 billion. That 35 billion...
Was it 35 billion that was approved?
Yeah.
Or was 35 billion that was released?
35 billion was released.
What was approved?
For our agreement with government,
yes,
they gave us 75 billion. 40 billion for our EA, including the non-teaching staff in the university.
And it was last year?
It was last year. Exactly. But this was an agreement that was reached with them in December 2020. December 2020. The disbursement of that 35 billion,
yes,
just took place in December 2021. December 2021. Less than 2 months ago.
So I think you now have the figure which I remember was 75 billion.
Yeah.
It was 75 billion which was approved. So you're saying that of that 75 billion, it was only 35 billion.
That was meant for revitalization.
And then of that, of the remaining 40 billion was for? For
EAE. Earned academic allowances and earned allowances. Earned academic allowances and earned allowances. Earned allowances for the non-teaching colleagues in the university. So the 40 billion was not entirely for ASUU, but government released 40 billion to the universities and 35 billion for revitalization.
So that is separate from the 170 billion.
Exactly.
Which you said was also due as at when?
As at the time we were meeting with them in December 2020. In December 2020. Recall that we went on strike for 9 months. Before we proceeded on strike, the 220 billion or so, yes, was supposed to be released. It is part of that 220 billion. You see, when we begin to talk about these figures, even we get confused because, I mean, for how long?
So let me get this straight, because it's a good thing you acknowledge that there's some confusion. I mean, when we get to hear these amounts of money, you're now wondering, hold on, this 75 billion is supposed to be part of what? You know, you think that a part of the promise is going for.
You know, when somebody is owing you money, or you're owing, and you keep paying in bits and pieces, at the point you don't even remember how much is still left.
Yeah, but
of the money.
I think that we should have an idea of how we'll say this is how much government promised. Isn't it correct?
We do.
From the 2009 agreement up to the 2013 needs assessment agreement, I think, which government carried out by itself.
Exactly.
And then up to when government now started fulfilling, I don't know if they've started fulfilling, but when they started paying some of it through some of the demands that ASUU has been making, we should be able to say that this was the chunk money that was demanded, and this is how much government has been able to pay, and this is the balance that is left that we are still expecting as a union. Shouldn't we be able to say that?
Well, we can say it. I was just trying to tell you how the thing has become so, you know, unwinding for all of us. 220 billion was given to the universities by the Goodluck Jonathan administration
in 2013.
The entire money was about 1.3 trillion naira. It was going to be given in 5 tranches. So that first tranche had been given by the Goodluck Jonathan administration. The next government, which is this government, was supposed to take the next tranche of about 200 billion, right? It is out of that 200 billion that they have given 35. So we have about 170 left. We met on the 25th of March, 2021 last year, and told them, what about this 170 billion? When are you going to advance this money to the universities? They said, no, they don't have money. We said, okay, so how can we help you? They said we should go and bring a schedule for them to look at on how to pay. So based on the economic circumstances, we decided to suggest to them to give every quarter 42.5 billion naira, spread over about a year and a half. It is that 170 or so billion that we're still talking about, that no kobo has been given.
Is that why you've decided to embark on this one?
This is one of the reasons. The other reasons are the issue of UTAS, which you all know, IPPIS. Since IPPIS was introduced, the universities have never been the same. Any honest vice chancellor will tell you the challenges. Any bossa, if any university, public university, federal government in Nigeria, will tell you the challenges that they are having with IPPIS.
What is a challenge?
Number one, initially we had complained that the IPPIS did not have the human component, human resource component. It was supposed to be a handshake of the payroll and the human resource. Okay? The payment and the human resource. As it is now, well, at the time that they started, we had told them that you need to marry this. If you don't, you won't be able to capture us, or it won't be able to serve the purposes in the university. And what there are peculiarities in the universities, that we go on sabbatical, that we are visiting lecturers, that we are adjunct lecturers in the university. This is standard practice. You know, it's not about Nigerian universities. They said, no, they've taken care of sabbatical. They've taken care of visiting. Oh, they are going to knock off contract staff. They have tried to do all that and have failed. Since they introduced IPPIS in the universities, to this day, as I'm sitting down here, there are members of our union who have gone on sabbatical that have still not been paid. At the time we started with these people, look at this. This whole document, no matter how you try to focus your camera on this document, you cannot see it. We have reduced it to so little. It could have been a very bulky document. These were names, numbers of our members who had not been paid salaries or who have been knocked off, from the payroll as a result of the introduction of IPPIS. After our strike, this number has reduced.
The number has reduced? So
it has reduced.
In other words, it's been taken care of?
Well, yes, but when you want to take care of a problem that you say you have the capacity to address, and it's taking you over a year, as at today, we have people, let me talk about my university now. We have people in the University of Jos that have not received salary for the past 6 months.
Dr. Pimuna, I would like to ask you, because with this UTAS versus IPPIS, which, I do recall that it was seen that immediately the federal government said that, they were going to introduce IPPIS. ASUU was immediately up in arms. It was seen that it didn't even give the system some time to work, or to even, see if it could work with the university system before it was shut down by the lecturers. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, you're correct. That at the onset, we knew this was not going to work. No, we didn't give it a chance.
So let me tell you the impression that was out there. The impression that was out there was that the system had been, the payment system that was currently in operation in the universities had been so abused and so filled with corruption that there were going to be resistance to any attempt to try to clean up the system.
Well, that's not correct. That was not the reason why we didn't give it a chance.
That's the impression that was out
there. Well, let me clear that impression. When they approached us with the IPPIS instrument in 2007, we looked at it and we told them that this is not going to work. And we told them the reasons why it was not going to work. I'll get to the issue of corruption and the shady deals that go on in the university. It wasn't going to work for so and so and so reasons. They said, okay, since you have identified this is in 2007, can you produce for us something that will address these issues? We said, okay, we'll have a look at it. But we were supposed to meet with them again, the Office of the Accountant General back then, to see how we're going to work these things out. We didn't hear from the officers again until 2017 or so, when they tried to introduce it again. And we said, look, since our last meeting in 2007, you have not called us back to see what we're doing or to interact and know what needs to be done. So you can't do it. We have told you the reasons why you can't do it. Well, long story, about a year or two ago, they decided to enforce IPPIS in the Nigerian university system, and we're having the challenges that I've just shown you some of them. The problems are still there. So on the issue of corruption, that we were fighting IPPIS because we didn't want the sleaze, we were going to so many universities, 5, 10 universities. Well, we're all educated. You have relations who work in the university. You have friends who work in the university. You have classmates who are professors and are working in the university. Ask them, how many of them go on sabbatical? Is it easy to just go on sabbatical? I've been in the Department of Psychiatry in Jude for about 22 years now. I have not seen more than 2 people come on sabbatical to my department. The same thing with other departments. It's not as if everybody is going on sabbatical. So that issue of wanting to take money into play, after all, sabbatical is an established practice.
Yes,
all over.
Sabbatical is one. But in terms of going to, right now, we know that there's a plethora of private universities. They are also looking for lecturers for their own universities. We know that a lot of the resource people who go to private universities are from government universities, and that people do part-time there. How does the federal government take account of that?
It's not even the federal government. The universities can take charge in that one if they want to. And there are rules for sabbatical. You can't visit more than 1 You can't.
Is that the same thing as sabbatical?
No, sorry. For sabbatical, the rules are there. For visiting, you can't go on visiting for more than 2 universities at any point in time. Yeah, while you have a primary place of employment. The rules are not being enforced. It's not ASUU that will enforce the rules. It's our vice chancellors and our administrators in the university that should do that. But let me tell you, the issue of corruption that people, who are those doing the corruption? How many vice chancellors have we reported to the Ministry of Education, to regulatory agencies that they have not taken any action on? How many vice chancellors?
Well, there are a few questions that my colleagues in Lagos have for you as well. Gentlemen.
Let me just bring this in. So this question around, visiting other universities, you say you shouldn't do more than 2 per time. It has been a big one, and I'm glad that we're talking about this, really. So do you think also that the lecturers have complicity in this whole rot that we see in the education sector? Because it's been said that if you have alternatives, if you have other places you can visit, then there's a tendency to not pay attention to the primary ones, which is, our public universities, and focus all your attention, your energy, the best in those other ones. So do you think that the lecturers should also at least say, you know what, guys, we're also partly responsible for this rot?
Well, I didn't hear the last part of your question, but I think I get the sense of what you're saying. It's human beings. It's our lecturers. It's our members that go on visitation. It's our members that go on sabbatical. It's our members that are adjunct lecturers. So if they find anybody going on visitation, it's our member. I'm not saying they are not angels or spirits that go on sabbatical. That is accepted. But it is because that is possible. I mean, abusing those things, those privileges or those rules are possible. That was why the federal government, through NUC, university councils, decided that there will be rules. Don't do this. Don't do that. If you do more than 2, these are the consequences. It's not ASUU that would enforce those rules. All ASUU does is to call the attention of university administrations and say, look, this thing is a problem. We have discussed at NEC of ASUU, and we have told our members that, look, you are killing yourselves. Nobody is taking care of your health. And you're visiting in very far places. There is even a distance that you must cover. If you go beyond that distance, you've broken another rule. So we're not saying that it's not our members that go on visitation, but the rules are there to check. And it is not our place to enforce the rules. It's the responsibility of the university administrations to enforce those rules. So if they are not enforcing the rules, all we do is to keep drawing their attention to the fact that you need to enforce these rules. So I don't know how else or what else ASUU is supposed to do.
The question then rises from the response that you've given now, the culpability of the university systems as well, and also tapers from some of the questions that Malpe asked you about the responsibility of the university administrations in all of these conversations that we are having. You know, what irks me in all of these is, in all the conversations that we've had so far from you on this matter, not a single mention has been made of the Federal Ministry of Education. And of course, almost like you are even absolving the university systems themselves. So I'm wondering, is there no role for the Federal Ministry of Education, who are the direct employers or the ones that directly work with ASUU members? Is there no role, in no way that the university systems themselves could have prevented this from happening, since they are the ones that you directly work with?
Well, that's a very valid question, really. Let me just say that from my comments, I do not see anywhere that I'm trying to absolve university administration. In fact, I'm accusing them of not enforcing the rules. I've said that there are universities that we have found, corruption, and we have reported to regulatory agencies as well as our ministry. So we're not absorbing the universities at all. Why is the Ministry of Education not fully involved in all that is going on? Most of the time, it is the Minister of Labor that we engage with. And the Ministry of Education, to the best of my knowledge, have attended all our meetings. The NUC Executive Secretary has been in all our meetings. And at each of our meetings, he reminds us that he will report to the minister or the ministry what transpired at that meeting. So if it is the face of the Minister of Education that we want at our meetings, we are not seeing that face. But the representation of the ministry, to the best of my knowledge, it has always been there. In fact, we have, I think, a deputy director that attends. The director of tertiary education used to attend our meetings. The immediate past permanent secretary in the ministry initially used to come to our meetings. And so I think there is some representation. If there are issues to be sorted out between the ministry, the two ministries, they know where to do that one.
It sounds, you'll forgive me, Dr. Pinuma, if the Nigerian student thinks that what you said about the Ministry of Education attending the meetings is a cosmetic approach at trying to solve a much bigger problem. There are those who believe that, look, if we don't deal with it, we just had a guest speak to us earlier here, that if you don't deal with the problem of education, whatever infrastructure development that we put up is going to go into shambles within the next few years. So attending the meeting is not the thing for me. The question is, what is their role in attempting to prevent the shambles that you are talking about now, that is staring us in the face if we do not address the challenges that ASUU is having to contend with and the rot in the universities that you've been talking about?
Well, you said the attendance of the Ministry of Education is cosmetic. All of them, the Ngige, the Ministry of Education, the accountant, they are all hairdressers. They are all cosmeticians. Not all of them. There is none of them that is sincere. None of them. I read this morning on my way here, the Honorable Minister of Labor saying that we are insincere. You know, these days there are definitions for so many things. And when we meet him, and I'm sure we will, he will tell us what the definition of sincerity is.
The 1 month warning strike, which you've given right now, what do you hope it will achieve?
We hope that the 1 month warning strike will give NIREC, led by the Sultan and the President of Khan, that the 1 month will give them an opportunity to prove themselves. We hope that this 1 month will make the Chief of Staff to the President return to the person we met in 2020. Because at that time, we felt his word was sure and we could take it to the bank. But 1.5 or so years after that, we are beginning to think that the words of the Chief of Staff is close to that we've been hearing over time. So this 1 month is to give him time, is to give NIREC time, and give any Nigerian the opportunity to speak to these individuals and see if they will reason. So that, look, this 1 month strike, why won't this strike end in a week now? Why? Why should it be up to a month?
So it can end in a week?
It should. It should. If they do what they are supposed to do, we must not go on strike for 1 month.
Let's take a break at this point. We'll be back to discuss alternatives. Could there be alternatives to raising these funds, which ASUU is talking about? In just a moment, please stay with us. Well, we still have with us Dr. Christopher Piwuna, who is the Vice President of ASUU, here in our studios. Or just before we went on break, we said we were going to talk about alternatives. Dr. Piwuna, you say that the federal government still has 170 billion naira to pay for this tranche, the second tranche of the 1.3 trillion that was initially agreed. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Of that, now, you heard the Minister of Labour talk about how 40 billion was released and then another 30 billion released and another, is it 22 billion? I don't know. Did you hear him say that?
Well, let me even take this question from the point of sincerity and insincerity that the Minister of Labour was talking about earlier on. He said in that clip that you just heard now, that in August, 40 billion was released for revitalization. Dr. Ngige knows that we met with him in November talking about the release of that 40 billion. So which 40 billion is he talking about that was released in August? Which 40 billion? He just said it now on screen. That, you see, that's what they tell the president of this country. They tell him these things, and the president will think they're telling him the truth.
But hold on.
In November, we met with Dr. Ngige in his office. It was shown. If you look at your archives, you will find that meeting. At that meeting in November, we were talking about convening a meeting of the Implementation Monitoring Committee to ensure release of that 40 billion. He's saying to Nigerians that that money was released in August. That's a very sincere man.
Tell us then, I mean, because you talked about 75 billion which was released. You said 35 billion was for earned allowances and 40 billion was for revitalization.
Yes.
Isn't that the 40 billion he was referring to?
Well, I thank you for this question. You know, like we agreed, and like someone said in Lagos, that just attending meetings do not translate to implementing or getting results out of these meetings. We have met with these people since December 2020 over this 35-40 billion. It was never released. In December, when they were going to release the EAA to us, in his office, he told us that we were going to get the money in a week's time, before Christmas. He called the Accountant General's representative and said, well, don't go on holiday, stay. We never got this money till February. It started coming in January and February. So
that's February 2021 was when how much was released? How much
the 35 billion
was released for earned allowances.
For earned allowances.
But 40 billion was never released.
As I'm talking to you now,
yes,
there are universities that have still not accessed the 40 billion, but for good reasons. Some of them did not follow the guidelines.
But 40 billion was released.
40 billion.
That interview was done in December. That interview where he spoke was done in December. So perhaps as at the time he spoke, that 40 billion had been released.
No, but that's not what he said. He said the money was released in August. That was what he said. Whether the interview was held in December or in August or in January this year, what he said was that the money was released in August, and that is not true.
Okay, so 40 billion, however, has now been released and is now left for universities to see how to access it. He also made reference to another amount of money. I think, if I heard correctly, I'm not sure I heard correctly, is that 2 billion or 22 billion? And there's a huge difference between 2 and 22 billion. Can you clarify for us what that money was for?
Part of the reasons why we went on strike was the issue of mainstreaming of our EA into our salaries. Why do we need to mainstream? Backlog of EA has become a burden that we think government cannot even shoulder. So we said, in order to solve this problem, why don't you mainstream the EAA into our salaries? So it comes naturally. So we don't keep going on strike saying, you have not paid for 2013, you have not paid for 2015, where you're still owing us 2013. No, mainstream it into our salaries. They agreed and said they were going to pass send a supplementary request budget to the National Assembly, which they did. That's the 22 billion he's talking about. But
and it has been released.
It has been released.
And it has been put into the salaries.
But there's more to it.
Okay.
It was released for 2020. They did not mainstream it in 2021. They did not mainstream it in 2022. So what is the idea of the mainstreaming? We're still running the same business of arrears. If we say mainstream, mainstream means mainstreaming. So do it. Let it constantly run in our salaries. So we don't have to say, oh, you're owing us for... But now, the 20 billion for 2020 that they released this year, no, towards the end of last year, they are still not mainstreamed. So we are going to
have a backlog for 2021
and 2022 because the budgets have been passed. And then the issue of UTAS, which was also part of why we went on strike, NDLEA, through the Minister of Labour, wrote to us.
Through the Minister of Labour or through the Minister of Communications?
Well, it was the Labour Minister that got in touch with us.
Okay.
NDLEA must have written their parent minister, and he wrote to Ngige. We got a communication from Dr. Ngige, the Minister of Labour, saying that that our UTAS cannot be deployed because it has failed. Today again, the minister has said 500 tests were conducted on NDLEA, on UTAS, and that we failed. ASUU's software failed 300. It is not true. And that is another sincere statement.
Insincere, you mean?
No, I mean, they are sincere people. Where are the insincere ones? That is another sincere statement from them. That 500, there were 678 tests that were conducted. 687 tests that were conducted. Our software passed 529.
How did you get those figures?
They gave us now.
NDLEA gave it to you?
Yes, that letter that he sent to us, they gave it to us. If you have 600 questions and you pass 500, is that a pass or a fail? No, ma. I want you to answer it. I'm sorry.
I assume it's a rhetorical question that doesn't need an answer.
But let me say this. On this same UTAS, this NDLEA that is supposed to encourage homegrown software, partner with anybody who can do all these things, we're sorry to say, they have lost their professional capacity to speak about UTAS. Why? We have a document here where NDLEA plagiarized the report. They went online or wherever, took a report somewhere that is totally unrelated to UTAS and transposed it on the report that they sent to their minister, to the Minister of Labour, and brought to us that our UTAS has failed. Plagiarism is a very serious...
That's a very heavy allegation.
I want you to investigate it. It is here. It is here. We have it here. We have it here. This is what they took online. And then transposed it on the report they sent to government, saying that UTAS has failed. So you can see a deliberate attempt, a very deliberate attempt by government and its agents to ensure that all the demands, patriotic demands of ASUU, genuine demands by ASUU, for the betterment of the Nigerian university system, they always try to cut it down.
Well, you have said that this strike doesn't need to last a month,
yes,
that it can be over in 1 week.
Yes.
And I'm sure that that's what a lot of people are holding on to. They would like to hold on to that. The parents, the students, whoever it is that is funding their education as well, will also be very interested in that piece of news. I'm wondering, what alternatives are there? Because let's face it, 1.3 trillion naira for revitalization and a host of other things that is needed in our university system. And we know the current state of our university systems. We know that we need to do something urgently about it. But we also know the current state of the economy. We know the current state that government is in. And we know that at this rate, it might not be able to carry it all alone. What alternatives is ASUU proposing to government that if you also look this way, perhaps we might be able to, carry this burden and get this goal done faster?
You know, the other clip that you showed, clearly the president was asking us.
Yes.
The president and commander-in-chief was asking us to show understanding that the times are hard. And he's right. Times are hard. We don't only know that times are hard in this country. Times are very, very bad in this country. So we know. 1.3 trillion naira is a huge chunk of money. And that chunk cannot be coughed out easily. So we said 170 billion. The 170 billion, we say even that is too heavy. That government cannot give to universities. 170 billion. So we came up with a plan and said even that 1.7 billion, 70 billion, break it down. Well,
and
maybe,
pay every quarter. Is
yes.
That, and pay. It still. What it still means is that government still has to cough it out. If you are owing money,
but they are not coughing out 1.3 trillion.
So what are
they are not coughing out
170
billion.
Yes. So perhaps they don't have to cough it out all at once, but they still have to cough it out.
Exactly.
That's the point. So some people are saying, there are many ways, because people are saying, if as it currently stands, a lot of Nigerians, despite how difficult things are, despite the humongous, the escalating rate, exchange rate, naira to the dollar or naira to the pound or naira to whatever other currency we're exchanging it into, despite how it is going with this exchange rate, Nigerians are still able to send their children abroad. A lot of people who are tired of the government system are still finding ways to put their children in private universities. Private universities are springing up on the daily, almost, it will seem. And many more requests are being made to the NUC for accreditation and all manner of things from these universities. It means that money that could come to government is going elsewhere. Is ASUU exploring other alternatives that it is proposing to government that perhaps if we look this way as well, and I know that there have been proposals in the past. TET Fund was as a result of one of such proposals, and we understand that TET Fund has been doing some work in that regard. So what other alternatives can we be looking at that would not come directly from government, perhaps a partnership that could help to revitalize our educational system?
Well, that argument about alternatives on how public universities or institutions, should be run in Nigeria has been on for a very long time. And it is, for us, an ideological argument. While private enterprise and all that is going on, we believe that education is for public good. And because of that, we should seek ways to plug excesses and losses in government to ensure that, things like education, health, agriculture, education is not the only sector. We understand. We understand.
There are many competing needs.
There are. But if they can plug the excesses in the system, I was coming here this morning. As I was driving to this place, there is a heavy traffic, which I'm sure you know, because of fuel queues.
Scarcity.
Fuel scarcity in town. There were 7 government vehicles blaring their siren. 7. Where are they going to? Where? Who are they carrying? What are they carrying? Who bought the fuel for the 7 vehicles? There are so many excesses in this government. So when you tell us that, we should privatize, not you. When people say, privatize educational institutions or, pay school fees, do this, do that, we can see excesses in the system that can be used to solve this problem. And you're telling us that we should allow the excesses to continue while we start paying fees. It's not possible.
Well, we'll see. You know, I believe that there certainly can be, maybe not privatization, perhaps other ways. And I believe that, you know, ASUU and government and perhaps other well-meaning individuals who have, you know, stepped in to help negotiate and bring an end to this, perhaps might be able to look that way as well. But we have to thank you so much for your time this morning. I think it's also very important to say that we did tried to reach the Ministry of Labour. In fact, we invited them to this program, but they're yet to respond. We believe that perhaps as time goes on, they too might be willing to reach out and let us, you know, have what their concerns are and what their own side of the story is from what has been given here. But we have to thank you so much for coming on this morning. Dr. Christopher Piwuna is the Vice President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. Well, we'll take a break at this point and we're back to take on another matter, equally controversial, in a moment. Please stay with us.
With intelligence at our disposal, the agency believes strongly that DCP Kyari is a member of a drug cartel that operates the Brazil-Ethiopia-Nigeria illicit drug pipeline. And he needs to answer questions that crop up in an ongoing drug case in which he is the principal actor. His failure to cooperate forced the hand of the agency, and that is the reason for this press briefing. His team had intercepted and arrested some traffickers that came into the country from Ethiopia with, according to him, 25 kilograms of cocaine. He proposed a drug deal where he and his team are to take 15 kilograms of the cocaine and leave the 10 kilograms for the prosecution of the suspects arrested with the illicit drug in Enugu. In the meantime, the purloined cocaine, that is the depleted cocaine, will be replaced with a dummy worth 15 kilograms. He asked the NDLEA officer to persuade men of the FCT command to play along as well. So we have a trove of intelligence, hard facts, from chats to photos and video, and a detailed transcript of the communication between him and the NDLEA officer. Having failed to honor the official invitation, NDLEA has no option but to declare DCP Abba Kyari of the Nigerian police wanted right from this very moment. I must say this publicly: we are not unaware of threats to the lives of NDLEA officers involved in this investigation, even as we continue to do our best to protect our officers and men in the line of duty.
Welcome back. Yes, that's what we're going to focus on. Mr. Kyari is now in the custody of the NDLEA. Mr. Seyi Adetayo joins us next. He's the former state security operative to weigh in on the matter. Good morning and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, this particular scenario, well, I wonder what you think about it, but to a large extent, don't you think in the first instance it casts a shadow on the operations of security agencies in this country, about how they operate?
Oh, definitely. Most importantly, when we have an officer that was celebrated so much in terms of how much achievement that he made while he was still in active service, and that many were seen as a role model or example of a super cop, because that's what they call him. But it's quite unfortunate that at this moment we're talking about this. But this speaks volume to two things here. One, individual values and a broken down system. And that is why while we're looking at this, we need to look at the foundation. You see, power without control is a problem. which is what I see as the cause of this. And if we don't begin to start addressing issues with power without control, they say absolute power corrupt absolutely. We will continue to have situations like this. The guy started so well, but the power he and his team got became so much, and then there was no control. It became so powerful that even at a point in time, I think during the IG portal, that it became so big that even the commissioner of police became so worried about the operations of his team. They will operate, that is the IRT team, the IGP monitoring team, and the SAS team. They will operate at state level in such a way that even the commissioner of police could not control or could not have a say. They will arrest people. Complaints will be made to commissioner of police. Commissioner of police will not be able to intervene on arrest made within their state command, and the suspect kept under cells in their state command, because the officers that are involved are receiving powers and are protected at the force headquarters level. And we saw this being controlled when the next IGP came in, and we've seen that the current IGP has consolidated on what the last IGP did. So we need to look at this not just from the level of the police, but from all other agencies. That internal control must not be sacrificed on a platter of being popular, or you want to make quick wins. You are looking for media hype to see that you are trying to work. We must be able to establish. And when we talk about internal control, the internal control that most of the agencies are using today, actually from the police. The police is the first agency that was created in Nigeria, and because the colonial legacy, and all these things were inherited from the British. And it is what the British gave the Nigerian police is what all other agencies are using, be it the military, they develop on it, the DSS, the NDLEA.
Yeah, Mr. Adetayo, when you say internal control, I mean, to some, it suggests that different services have checks and balances. So when you talk about this internal control, what does that exactly mean? What are you referring to?
Processes will not work on its own if people don't allow the process to work. Now, processes are properly defined. There are police regulations that regulate how police officers are supposed to behave. There are so many documents that have been issued, principles and policies within the Nigerian police that talks about hierarchy, a reporting line, and powers of at state command level, the responsibility of commissioner of police, responsibilities of area commanders, responsibilities of DPOs, responsibilities of AIGs. So when we are creating some departments, and the departments are to operate at different levels, they are supposed to be subjected to the controls at the level at which they are operating, so that those guidelines will be effectively be monitored, supervised, and enforced. That is the problem with this Abba Kyari affected him and affected his team. Remember, aftermath of the NSAS crisis, there were petitions that were written that evidence collected, items seized from armed robbers, from kidnappers, were being converted to personal use and some sold. And now, with what has happened now, it has confirmed it, because the cocaine we're speaking about right now is also an evidence that was collected after or seized after an operation. And the cocaine is now being converted now into money for personal use. So all those reports that we've been hearing, we find it difficult. I happen to be one of those people that were, saying that let's give this guy benefit of the doubt, because he has performed very well. We should not just, because somebody has complained, then we'll want to rubbish him. Let's investigate it further. But with all what we've seen in recent has shown that all these complaints, there is reason for us to go back and look at them. It's not just about the ones that the NDLEA has been able to bring out, not only about the ones that the FBI had reported. We need to now go back to all the petitions and complaints that has been written in the past concerning the operations of Abba Kyari and his team. And I used to talk about justice.
Yeah, Mr. Adetayo, this definitely suggests that we need to look inwards concerning all these other agencies, the items they confiscate from people or from suspects? What becomes of all of those? There has to be searchlights. The standards for holding security agencies accountable really needs to be a lot higher as expected in this country. For instance, I mean, speaking about this control, I thought he was supposed to be on suspension. Is this so lax that nobody was even watching to ensure that he stays within the leash? How do you think this plays out?
That is exactly what I'm talking about. It's about the control. You see, his indictment by FBI was so much politicized. Some traditional rulers were involved. They're trying to make case for him. This guy has done so well. So the guy was not really feeling the heat of the issue, and that's the reason why. Because I can't really expect someone that is under the radar of the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation will still not be involved in a crime that has international dimension. Drug trafficking is international. Those that are involved they are cartels, and the cartels spread across countries within the regions where they are operating. And these people, one way or the other, they are on the watch list of either the FBI or other foreign, agencies and the DEA. The DEA are operating in almost all the areas where the U.S. embassies are. And they are working with local, agencies like the NDLEA in Nigeria. And I know there is that strong collaboration between the NDLEA and the US DEA in Nigeria. And so for you to now get involved in things like this under this condition, that even, there are issues between the IGP and the police commission over the outcome of the report. There's so much news out there, and some people are trying to dip their neck for you, and then you are still involved in this. That shows that this is about individual values.
Okay,
it's definitely not something that just started now.
Well, perhaps that also puts a question mark on the quality of people that are employed into the security services, all of them across, about 9 or 13 of them. But Mr. Adeta, one question that comes to my mind in all of these is what makes security operatives vulnerable to this? Yes, you have talked about personal values. You've also talked about control. But are these anything to do with the welfare, the take-home, the conditions of service that each of these people, of these systems operate, within which they operate, that makes their officers vulnerable? You also said it the other time that we need to look at all security agencies, all of them all together, including the NDLEA you probably are speaking to as well. So what, in your opinion, could have made these officers vulnerable within the system, within the powers that they have?
Okay, now, two things outside the things that I've mentioned. One is personnel security. That's always called personnel security. And that is, those are systems put in place to ensure that the process of hiring, background checks, we call it vetting, and after vetting, when the process within which they will go through the orientation into the agency, and then by the time they start working, vetting is supposed to continue, and that's what is called continuous vetting. Now, these are legacies of the Nigerian police. Other agencies are following it, much more than the way the police, maybe because of the size of the police. But it's not something that we need to joke with, because police in other crimes, they are still doing it. But so the issue of personnel security is there. We are not following it. And what personnel security entails is that after 5 years, 10 years of every 5 years or 10 years, you go back and they revet these officers again, check their bank account, check their lifestyles, dip their life again, and see whether they are actually living beyond their means, but there are some things that are involved with that have not been open to the agency that those investigations will now bring out. It now helps you to now start weeding out the bad eggs within the system. We are no longer following it. Some agencies are still following, but they are not following the way they used to follow it before. That is one. Two, the recruitment process, the training process. Now, the whole essence of the trainings that are being, the programs of trainings for security agents is designed to ensure that you are modified to become a loyal citizen and a responsible citizen and a law enforcement officer, somebody who will frown at the law. Now, after this training, you are now brought into the system. It doesn't really matter whether your salary is the best in the world or it is in the lowest in the world. As long as internal controls are there and personal security.
Mr. Adetayo, are you sure the take-home pay is not? It does not matter in this issue?
No, what I'm saying is this. See, there are several officers in our agencies. Are they all corrupt? Have you not met police officers that will tell you that they will call white white and tell you black is black, and yet they are not driving the best of cars? Because the system has gone through them. They allow the system to go through them and modify them. I worked in a system, and several other people like me are there that just stand, on the values that we all went through. And because even when you want to go outside those values, because there are checks and balances, internal control will prevent you from being able to. Now, let me tell you something about DSS. Everybody is watching everybody in the DSS. If you start living extravagant life and start living beyond your means, doing something, one of your mates will report you. And when somebody reports you to be investigated, they will do checks and they will do background checks behind you. And before you know it, the person is already facing, disciplinary measures and is being kicked out. Those are internal measures put in place to ensure that everybody is being put, on their toes to do the right thing. I'm not saying that it is Uhuru in that agency, but I know the same thing is with the NDLEA. I've worked with several NDLEA officers. I can tell that they are watching themselves. There are still some of them that are still corrupt, but it will help you to ensure that at least you have about 98, up to 98% of the officers that are upright. So those remaining 2% that are irredeemable, it gives you opportunity to be able to identify them and then start plucking them out. But when we allow the internal control to be destroyed, you start having like 98% to be corrupt and 2 that are upright, and they will not be able to make any difference.
So if I could do the calculation, 98% corrupt and 2% incorruptible, as it were. For the police, the population of the police is nearing 400,000, some say between 350, 370,000. So that would imply that over 300,000 are corrupt, coming from that analogy you gave. And
no, that's not what I said. You are trying to be the devil's advocate here.
No, I'm borrowing from the analogy.
I'm just saying that we should not get to a level where we will result into a situation where 98% will be corrupt and 2% will be upright.
So I'm painting that analogy now. I'm using figures now so people can understand well, and I'm using the Nigeria Police Force. So, if we give that figure, it paints the picture better. I'm not saying currently they are. I'm just using the analogy you gave. But the point here is, a lot of people wonder how easy it will be to begin to reverse these things. Because, the quantum, you talked about the DSS, NDLEA. The force is not as big as the police. The police is huge. You guys, the logo is an elephant, essentially, so it's big. So I wonder, how do we begin to reverse this? Because we have a huge population, from the ones in the offices, the ones on the street. By the way, we have fantastic policemen, and I can say that because I've met them time and again. But how do we begin to reverse this, this internal control mechanism you talked about for an agency as huge as the police?
No, it starts with, respecting the hierarchy, respecting the structure, allowing the organogram to work the way it's supposed to. And thanks to the immediate past IGP, it's one of the things that he reversed when he came on board. And I know the reason why IGP Ringing did what they did because they inherited some problem. He needed to make some quick wins, and then he set up the body, gave them so much power. But the power he gave them resulted into another problem. And there was so much complaints, even coming from the Commissioner of Police. So we must start by making state command to be a very strong institution that nobody operating at a state command can go beyond the CP to get anything done. And the CP should devolve the power downward, such a way that the area commander becomes so powerful as well as his own, to be able to have all those processes, be able to do checks and balances, be able to do sustain internal control, have the right kind of department at the area command, we have the same kind of department at the divisional level, where officers at the division can easily face that process of scrutiny, inspection, like that. And the IGPS squad as well should be strengthened. It's just like a very small unit, and they are working, but it's like trying to take water with a cup from the ocean. The effect is not that much. But Nigerian police need to revisit the police regulation. Go back into all the policies and look at it at how do we look at our current structure, the departments that we have. And I will give you an example. You see, now there is no regulated uniform for the Nigerian police. It should start from there. Nigerian police uniform should be identical. That rule must be enforced. This is how a Nigerian police officer should appear. Not somebody sewing t-shirt. You see some people that are going to special force, they will go to barrack and go and buy t-shirt. They will not do, embroidery with special force. It's very special force t-shirt. And then you see them sewing uniform for special force, even though they've not gone for that training. Even when you have gone for special forces training, but you are not correctly serving in the special force, while wearing the uniform of a special force, doing SPU work, doing MOPO work, working in the division, or doing a highway patrol, that is the uniform you are wearing. There is that loss of control. It must start from there. So that even the people will begin to identify who are the real police officers. And it must start from the division. The DPO should be held accountable at that level to ensure that the turnout of their men, their names are written. Go on Lagos Shagamu Benin Expressway. You will see the policemen on duty. They would deliberately put on an improvised bulletproof vest on their uniform to protect their name. Another one will go and wear an old uniform that the name has already removed. It is illegal for a police officer to turn out without his name properly written, and for the junior ones, their service number properly written. These are the small things. This must start from small things like this. When you begin to enforce this control, high up will begin to change and start turning things one by one.
And this particular instance you mentioned about uniform is actually big, because it's been said also that these officers actually have to pay for their uniforms, their boots, and the rest. So, I mean, clearly there's a lot of work we need to do. But let me take a detour quickly, because this case that the NDLEA is building is centered around exhibits, as it were, cocaine, 25 kilograms or what. And I think he has raised that question about what exactly happens to these exhibits. Because we see, the police, we see the NDLEA, we see customs come up with all of those seizures, as it were. And, there's always the photo ops. But the question is, what should happen to them? Customs comes up, says, we've seized, thousands of bags of, contraband. NDLEA does the same. I mean, in this case, the case is built around it. So really, what happens to those exhibits after the photo ops? What should happen to them?
You see, that is part of the internal control. There are supposed to be, there are internal controls. Police has one of the best regulation, the best internal control documents in Nigeria. It's about enforcing it. There are procedures for when seizures are being made. There are procedures to how seizures made are to be disposed of, through getting court order or getting certain approval for the contraband or the exhibit to be destroyed. and it will not be done until after the case has been disposed of. And if there's something that may be injurious, an order or so will be gotten for it to be disposed of, and it will be properly documented, properly returned. See, they have several documents which they use in, documenting these things, and they do periodical returns, monthly returns, quarterly returns, yearly returns. No, just of recent, there was a report as to the numbers of arms and ammunition that are missing within the covers of the Nigerian police. And if you flash back several years ago, there was a case of military officers during change when we were doing the process of amnesty that government was asking the Niger Delta militant to drop weapons, and they were giving them money, to embrace amnesty. And there are people who are stealing weapons from the Nigerian Army Armory to sell to the Niger Delta militants, and they are now resubmitting Nigerian Army weapon to the Nigerian government, and were collecting money until the DSA did a sting operation and then arrested them. Became a celebrated case. That is to show that it is not limited to the Nigerian police, but Nigerian Army.
As a matter of fact, this process of crime, remember, it was also a huge bone of contention with the EFCC, the former chairman of EFCC, as to what was going on with all of those scenarios, which is still perhaps still being attended to. But what do you see happening now that the NDLEA says we've got evidence to jail him? He's also wanted abroad. Is he going to stay here? Are we going to try him, hand him over? What do you see playing out, really?
Well, I think we just have to wait and see the best approach. Now, one agency is already handling it. The issues around, because he's still a serving police officer. And within the interagencies relationship protocol, they should not ordinarily go and arrest a superior officer without first reaching into the agencies. And that is what the NDLEA has done, which the Nigerian police don't usually do. They will arrest people from other agencies without even consulting, and it usually leads to problems. But NDLEA had done the right thing. They tried to invite him because he was on suspension. He didn't come, and they reported to his agency, and then they went out to make an announcement, and the agency arrested him and brought him. Now, he's facing one now. The one he was facing, or he's still facing on the FBI, is an internal issue, which we expect now that the Nigerian police now should, as a matter of fact, decide his fate and decide his status as a police officer. Once that one is done, it allows the the NDLEA to now take action. It now allows the arm of the Nigerian police, which is Interpol, to now be able to work with the NDLEA to determine, because probably they must have issued an international arrest warrant on him by now, and be able to work and say, okay, this issue, should we allow him to go and answer to FBI? Maybe there are even more information, as FBI said, that they have on him, that will unearth so many things. Even while that one was going on, that is also important for government to now set up a special panel to now look at what are all the activities of this team, all the seizures they've made, the exhibits. They look at those records, look at the life of the people that are there, because the same people who are working with him were under a different commander. Tuji Disu was posted as the head of the IRT. So it means that even those who are working under him are still reporting to their former boss, because that is exactly what it looks like is happening now. So they need to now start looking at all those officers that were involved with the Abba Kyari then, and then open up all these investigations. And not only that, other cases of the IGP monitoring team, cases relating to the SARS then, you need to look at it, because there were issues of exhibits, seizures made from armed robbers that were, disappeared overnight. Families complained that they even seized an hotel. They ran the hotel for several months or thereabouts, and probably sold some properties. I think the petition is there. It's in public domain about one of those allegations, against this people. So we need to look at this and let's start the process, one of healing and justice for those that have become victims, and the process also to show those who are serving that you can only run You can never escape the law. No matter how long you try to hide, if you don't do your work as a police officer, as well as an NDLEA officer.
Okay, so then just to ask quickly about this, about the situation now, my colleague already asked whether or not he should be extradited to the U.S. to face charges. But then you already raised the issue of him, the people who were underneath him answering questions or answering to him while it would seem that he was no longer the head there. About this particular one, do you think he was still serving while he was on suspension? Because this raid or this particular arrest was said to have been made just this year.
He was suspended last year, which means that he has been, stripped of all command responsibility. So someone on suspension is supposed to be home and waiting for the outcome of the panel setup to look at his case. He was not expected to even wear police uniform or even get involved, even enter police offices. So for him to be involved in this particular case shows that he was still even in suspension, running operations with his boys that are reporting to another commander. That shows the extent, and the more reason why they need to now go deep into those who work with him and then start investigating them, the activities since, he was suspended, and then those that needed to be weeded out should be weeded out.
Let me ask you what this does for belief in our security agencies. What does this do for confidence that ordinary citizens should have in our security agencies?
The truth is that we cannot afford not to have confidence in our security agency. They are product of the society. The people that are serving there are from the society. The young ones that are going into recruitment are coming from the same society. We must continue to support them. We must continue to speak when we're supposed to speak. When we see things that are wrong, we should say it out. There is no perfect police system anywhere in the world. Even in the United States, there are extrajudicial killing, there are racial killing, there are profiling and the rest. And he is also still doing everything possible, and the society are still working in support to ensure that they try to remodel their police into what they want. And we must also not give up on our own security agencies as well. We must give them support, provide necessary assistance, provide information, support them when they need to make arrests. And when we see things that are going wrong, we speak out, we report to the right authority, having the trust that they will act. And I'm sure this current IGP will act when such information gets to them.
Mr. Sheyaditaya, we have to thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. He's a former operative of the DSS. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, we see some of your mails have already begun to stream in. Dr. Peter Idialu has this one talking about current problems with ASUU. He says the current problems with ASUU are pretty complex and multidimensional, and they can be described to have resulted from many years of proliferation of university institutions in the country with no sincerity of purpose. An immediate solution will be a genuine holistic approach, including, among others, to streamline government institutions by having a functional few and benchmarking with the efficient private ones.
Well, next one is from Tajuddin Akonji on ASUU strike as well. Says, it may amaze you to know that the maximum salary of a professor is less than $1,000. So it's almost impossible to attract a lecturer from Niger Republic. Besides the problem of standards, many Nigerian lecturers have left the country, and due to IPPIS, universities can no longer appoint new lecturers based on merit and needs. Nigerian lecturers are the poorest paid in this competitive world. Education is not a priority of Nigeria.
Well, switch to tweets now. Festus Akinboyewa, also talking about university education, says university education used to be tuition free in the UK, but today it's £9,250 per year. Tuition fee for medical students in UK is about £36,000 per year in the UK. ASUU and FG must allow universities to charge appropriate fees so that lecturers can be paid well.
Well, this is from Professor Mohena. He says that ASUU and federal government should work together to forestall another nerve-wrenching strike. The students and parents bear the brunt of negligence of meeting with ASUU's demands. This is one strike too many.
And Rotimi Sumono Adams has this. The demand of ASUU is basically centered around the welfare of its staff. Is that what is being referenced as university development? Well, there is the demand for welfare for them, but there's also the demand for the revitalization of Nigerian universities. So that must not be confused with the welfare of members of ASUU, but that, of course, that is also a part of their demand as well. Well, at this point, we have watching the program this morning. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, let's make this day a great one, regardless of all the challenges, right? I'm Kyari Okikele.
Is it okay to say God bless Nigeria?
Absolutely.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.
How about charity begins at home? I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.